name is Amanda Lightbody. I brought in Floyd Wild's Dambusters logbook, his mother's Silver Cross, his service medals, and his operational wings. Floyd is my great uncle, and my grandmother had a lot of these things, so I've been collecting these things all of my life.
Steel was integral to the war machine of every nation fighting in World War II. Take away your enemy's steel, and you take away his ability to manufacture weapons. To accomplish this, you need to destroy either the steel factories or the generating stations powering them. For the Allies in 1943, this meant taking out heavily defended hydroelectric dams in the industrial heartland of Germany. But how could the Royal Air Force get past the Nazi guns and get their bombs to the right spot beneath the water in the massive reservoirs? And at what cost? The story of the Dambusters and Operation Chastise is the stuff of controversy and of legend.
Welcome, Amanda, to the set, and welcome to the show.
Thank
You
you.
brought some fantastic items today. Let's be honest about it. And I think certainly what we're going to see today is pretty special.
So this is the Floyd Wild logbook. This is when he was in the Canadian service and when he became a Dambuster. This is his LAC, this is his operational wings. When he died, the government of Canada sent his mother, the Mother's Silver Cross. And these are the medals that he was awarded for his service from the time he started in 1940 to the end in 1943. Floyd was one of 7 children, grew up in the country in Hants County, Nova Scotia. He always wanted to fly. And when the war started, that's exactly what he decided to do. He started in the reserves in 1940, but it wasn't until 1941 that he actually had been accepted to the Air Force. And he went across to England, and then he joined up with the British.
So, Amanda, on the night of May 16, 1943, a force of 19 Lancaster bombers left RAF Scampton.
Yes.
Floyd was in one of those Lancasters, and he took off with his crew, and they headed to do one of the most audacious missions up to that point throughout the war. Operation Chastise was one of the RAF's major missions of World War II. On the night of May 16, 1943, 19 Lancaster bombers in 3 waves attempted to destroy 4 dams in the Ruhr Valley of Germany. The intent was to knock the dams out because the power being supplied by those dams was feeding the German steel industry.
Their mission was to fly over the dam, drop a bomb that would bounce across the water, across the netting, protective netting, hit the dams, and then slide down to the bottom and breach them.
It's one of the legendary missions of the war, and Floyd, as being a Nova Scotian born and bred son, he was part of that, and the only Nova Scotian.
He is the only Nova Scotian, is correct, yes. And unfortunately, they went straight instead of turning, and when they did, they ended up crashing over a unmarked power pylon and crashed into a farmer's field.
And unfortunately, the entire crew was killed with the ensuing explosion and crash. So the successful aircraft that made it to breach the dams, they succeeded in breaching just 2 of them. And they lost 8 aircraft out of the original 19.
They did, 53 casualties in total.
So it was a fairly significant loss.
I've known about Floyd for, since I was probably about 8 or 9 years old. And I felt a connection as soon as I saw a picture of him in his uniform. I don't understand why, but he has been part of my life ever since then. And I feel very protective of him, I guess you could say. He was just an amazing person, honest, truthful, very smart. Even though his records, his education records, didn't always show it. Algebra was one of the strongest pursuits he had, but he always had a passion, and his passion was radios and flight. And it wasn't until 1940 that he decided he was going to sign up and try his luck at the Air Force. He really, really wanted to fly, and he did it. And by the end of it, he was soaring, literally soaring.
Well, and you couldn't get anything much higher than this sort of elite squadron, 617 Squadron, which he was part of at that point.
Yes.
And obviously flying on probably one of the most recognized missions of the RAF undertook in World War II.
Yes.
Floyd ultimately sacrificed his life for this raid, and the effect of bombing the dams was a major contributor to loss in life on the German side as well. There is 2 sides to this story, obviously.
There usually is when it comes to things like this. And the other side of this story is that there was a loss of German life, but not just German life for the residents that lived around the dams, but also for a group of Soviet women who were prisoners of war themselves. 400 of those women perished as well when the flooding happened. There was also a loss of animals, farms, so it was devastating all around as well on that side.
Because I think it unleashed about 200 million liters of water, I think, into the valleys. I mean, that was, even with the 2 breaches, it was a significant amount of water that you were funneling down that.
Yes, it was. Unfortunately, there is some controversy of how well this played out. Was this a success or not? But they were able to get the dams back up and running within a short period of time. It boosted the morale when morale was needed, and that usually comes at a cost.
So Amanda, this is a very significant legacy. It's a legacy of a major operational mission the RAF undertook. It's a story of a Nova Scotian going to war and ultimately paying the ultimate price for that service in the war. Ultimately, the legend of the Dambusters continued on after the war, and a movie was made in 1955. And 617 Squadron exists in the modern RAF today, and its symbol is a dam wall being broken.
Floyd is an average Nova Scotian person. He grew up, he lived values that Nova Scotia had. He represented something that was pure and honest and truthful in his life. But he also sacrificed his life. He did something that was tremendously hard and challenging, and his story can be inspiring. He had a passion and a dream, and he was going to follow it no matter what. And we always need the stories like that to help us remind ourselves that we can still do things that we set our mind to do.